Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Good evening. Welcome once again, our MC, Gloria Purvis.
Woohoo! Yay! Oh my gosh, can you believe it? This is our last late night together, and we are going to raise the roof in this place. Tonight is called our Evening of Witness and Praise, and you might be saying, well, why are we going to be doing that tonight? I don't know if you recall, Father Capot said during one of our plenary sessions, he said, when you hear someone else's story, it reminds you of your own encounter with Christ. Well, tonight's program is going to do just that, remind you of your encounter with Christ. We're going to have reflections, we're going to have music, we're going to have prayer, all urging us to go out with our shared call to go out and witness to Christ's love. And we are so grateful for those Catholic musicians who are going to be joining us tonight. Audrey Assad. Audrey Assad is the daughter of a Syrian refugee. She's an author, a speaker, a producer, and critically lauded songwriter and musician. She releases music that she calls soundtracks for prayer. She and her husband, William, co-own a record label called Fortunate Fall Records. We also have Matt Maher. He's an eight-time Grammy nominee and has become a staple in the artistic and songwriting community. If you were at World Youth Day in Rio in 2013, he performed there. He also got an award, a certification, a gold certification for his popular song, Lord, I Need You, and he better do that tonight. He better do it tonight. Originally, Matt is from Newfoundland, Canada, and he now lives in Nashville with his wife and 3 children. Before we get to rocking in here, we're going to hear a reflection by His Eminence, Cardinal Joseph Tobin. He's going to talk to us. He's going to reflect on the special importance of personal witness in daily life and of using our talents and gifts to draw others closer to Christ. And let me tell you a little bit about the Cardinal. He's the Cardinal Archbishop of Newark in New Jersey. He was appointed by Pope Francis in 2016. He was previously the Archbishop of Indianapolis from 2012 to 2016. Cardinal Tobin professed vows as a member of the Redemptorists in 1973 and was ordained in 1978. He was Superior General of the Redemptorists from 1997 to 2009. Please join me in welcoming Cardinal Tobin.
Thanks, Gloria. Would you permit me, if I ask nicely, to tell you my 2 favorite stories about Pope Francis? Are you all right with that? The first one is actually my second favorite, and it will tell you something about the speaker. The second one is my first favorite, and it may tell you something about you. Now, the first one. It happened about 2 years ago on a Wednesday morning in Rome. The Holy Father was in his famous Papamobile, the Pope Mobile, making a couple laps of the St. Peter's Square. And a group of people handed him up a gourd that was full of yerba mate, or if you're from Brazil, they call it chimarrão. But you know it's a tea that the people in the southern cone of Latin America really like. And it's always a communal event. They make the tea in the horn of a bull or in a gourd, hollowed out gourd, and put a metal straw in it, then they pass it around. Well, they handed it up to Pope Francis, and I think he recognized what it was, so he took it, took a couple slurps, and gave it back. He said, thank you. Afterwards, the security forces went ballistic. They said, you can't do that. If somebody hands you a piece of pizza to eat, you can't do that. And whatever you were drinking today, you can't do that. And finally, the Holy Father held up his hands in a sort of surrender and then offered an excuse. He said, those people, they were Argentinians. They weren't Cardinals. The second story, which you'll remember, is my favorite. Took place in the spring of 2013. Now, I checked this out. I'm not into false facts or bad news. I don't want to get wrestled to the ground. But I kind of would like to see somebody try. And these two voices, they knew what they're talking about, so I think you can take this as gold. The Holy Father, shortly after his election, called the Secretary of State, a cardinal, with a simple request. He said, I want to go to Lampedusa. Now, I'm sure some of you have heard of Lampedusa. It's an island in the Mediterranean Sea, technically the territory of Italy, but actually much closer to North Africa. It's a scene of great tragedy. It's the port of entry for thousands of immigrants and refugees. The seas around Lampedusa have been the graveyard for thousands of people. In 2015, I think it had the distinction of becoming the deadliest migrant route in the world. Now, the Cardinal was a little shocked at this request, and I think he tried to talk him out of it. He said, look, you've just been elected. I'm not sure you want to be scooting out of Rome so quickly. And what's more, this is your first trip, and you're going to be sending a message. Is this the message you want to send? Why don't you think about it? So he did. And several days later, he called up the Cardinal again and he said, I want to go to Lampedusa. And the Cardinal could see that his mind was pretty much made up. So he said, all right, fine. We'll go to Lampedusa. But you know, these trips can't be arranged from one day to the next. There's media, there's security, there's all sorts of logistics. Maybe in 6 months. Better a year, we'll be ready. The following week, the Cardinal received a phone call. But this time it was from the vice president of Alitalia, the national airlines. And he said, kind of hesitantly, I think you might want to know that a passenger by the name of Jorge Bergoglio has booked a seat on the Roma-Lampedusa flight. And they moved. So on July the 8th, 2013, 3.5 months after his election, 4.5 months before he would publish The Joy of the Gospel, Jorge Bergoglio, better known as Francis, the Bishop of Rome, went to Lampedusa, where he thanked the harried people of that island for the welcome that they offered the stranger, despite their meager resources. He celebrated the Eucharist, where he denounced the traffickers and prayed for the dead. What did he say? He repeated the first two questions that God asked of human beings after the fall. He asked, Adam, where are you? And to Adam's son Cain, he asked, Where is your brother? Where are you? Where is your brother? The answers did not come easily because of the sin. And they still don't. We might ask a question of Francis. Why did you want to go to Lampedusa? After all, you just arrived. And this is your first trip. Why pick that place? Reading carefully the joy of the gospel, we can expect that Francis would offer 3 reasons. First, his election had improved his peripheral vision. He saw things that he didn't see before. I would imagine, as the Archbishop of Buenos Aires in Argentina, he did not have much contact with refugees or migrants. Now, as the Holy Father, he would look around and see people that others would overlook, see a reality that was easily brushed off, see the results of a globalization of indifference. And what he would see pierced his heart. He said on July 8th, 2013, looking at the people over an altar that was made of the remains of some of those boats, he said, "When I first heard of this latest tragedy a few weeks ago and realized it happens all too frequently, it has constantly come back to me like a painful thorn in my heart." And so, as missionary disciples, we might ask ourselves, what do we see as we look around? How good is our peripheral vision? Where is God opening a door and beckoning us to enter? What pierces our hearts and leads us to weep? The second reason Francis might offer for this choice of Lampedusa at the start of his pontificate, he had to practice what he would preach. In the joy of the gospel, Francis insists that the fundamental conversion that is needed today is a missionary conversion. It is a re-evaluation of everything about the church and everything about us, the structures, the activities, so that mission and outreach to people in the love of Jesus is clearly the first priority. The first priority, not just on our papers, but in our budgets. Because a budget, after all, is a theological statement. Sometimes the Pope calls it a pastoral conversion, but the emphasis is always on mission, on going out. And he says in the joy of the gospel, "Since I am called to put into practice what I ask of others, I too must think about a conversion of the papacy. It is my duty as the Bishop of Rome to be open to suggestions which can help make the exercise of my ministry more faithful to the meaning which Jesus Christ wished to give it, and the present needs of evangelization." No less than all the members of the church, the Pope would not be constrained by the shackles of custom or empty pragmatism. Thirdly, Francis went to Lampedusa to find the suffering face of Christ. He reminds us that all of us are called to offer to others an explicit witness to the saving love of the Lord, who, despite our imperfections, offers us his closeness, his word, and his strength, and gives meaning to our lives. The gospel tells us constantly to run the risk of a face-to-face encounter with others, with their physical presence, which challenges us, with their pain and their pleas, with their joys, which infect us in our close and continuous interaction. True faith in the Son of God is inseparable from self-giving, from membership in the community, from service, from reconciliation with others. The Son of God, by becoming flesh, summoned us to the revolution of tenderness. The joy of the gospel insists that our response of love to Jesus' love of us and our willingness to share that love with others is the most important reality in our lives, and not just when we are doing something religious. Are there things in your life or in my life, worries, pressures, distractions, habits, fears that blot out our awareness of our life in Christ for much of the time? Are we like really agnostics who pray in the morning and then take charge of the rest of the day? Are we blind to the suffering face of Christ that is around us? For once again, as Francis reminds us, true faith in the Son of God is inseparable from self-giving, from our membership in the community, from service, and from reconciliation with others. If community is so essential to a full Christian life, how can we help it happen? Can you name some ways in which your parish has been able to offer real community to people? If you are already in a small community, God bless you. And I know it's very important to you. Perhaps it's your family, or a special circle of friends, or co-workers in the vineyard. Does it remain inclusive and open to others? And finally, as missionary disciples, standing by the cross of Christ in so many situations today, are we obsessed with immediate results that make it hard for us to tolerate anything that smacks of disagreement, possible failure, criticism, or the cross? And the biggest threat of all, says Francis, takes shape. It is that gray pragmatism of the daily life of the church, in which all appears to proceed normally, while in reality, faith is wearing down and degenerating into small-mindedness. Francis would ask us to have good peripheral vision, to go out to the ones who are forgotten, to the ones who are unseen, to bring with us our friendship with Jesus, to share with them their suffering, their pain, and their fear. Jesus would have us go with his cup. My friend, Father Dan Grudy from the University of Notre Dame, let me use this cup. A cup that is used at the altar, but a cup that represents the cup of suffering. The wood and the colored chips come from the ships of Lampedusa. This is the cup of suffering that Jesus did not want to drink, and asked his Father if it would be possible to make it pass. But this is also the cup in which the suffering and pain of this world is transformed by the faithful love of the Father. This is the cup that we share. This is the cup that makes us the church. This is the vision, the pierced hearts, the quick reaction, the courageous decisions that make us missionary disciples. And we ask our Mother Mary, who was the first disciple of her Son, and a missionary, seeing things that others did not see, treasuring things in her heart, and standing by the cross to help us drink the suffering that evangelization necessarily demands, with the confidence that it will be transformed by God's love into the cup of blessing that we raise in thanksgiving. And to Him who gives us love, who makes us church, who has called us out of darkness into His wonderful light, who left beside the glory so that He would become one of us, so that we might be one with God. To Him be glory now and forever in the church. Amen.